Walt, I'm not wearing a hat, but have no fear. Inspector Clouseau is coming out later today. When it is, can't tell you. Just gotta tease you because you gotta watch the show. In your home state of New York, what is going on with the governor? Yes, we'll make AVs legal. Oh, nope, can't have New York City. Oh, can't call Frank Sinatra. Then down in Austin, Waymo's taunting Tesla. I guess bigger is better in Texas. Then we got a great foreign autonomy desk. Maybe I'll bust out a hat. Maybe I won't. And most importantly, let's go to Telco Corner first. What the heck happened with Verizon this week? I mean, come on. Can you hear me?
There has been a big demand to bring back Telco Corner on the Lightshed podcast. So I think we'll extend it over here because it's actually, I think we can relate it to the Waymo experience. As many of our watchers and listeners may have experienced, your Verizon phone just stopped working for a day. And like Waymo, when they finally got it back up, the response was not from the CEO of the company. It was like some PR. They didn't provide an explanation for what exactly went wrong with the network. And, they're offering a $20 credit, but it's one of these classic opt-in things, Grayson, where, hopefully you'll figure out what link to go and fill in the information. The reality is that, a minority of people end up figuring out how to collect on that $20 credit. So yeah, it was a busy week in telco land. This is coming from a company with a new CEO that just fired 15% of the workforce. So, I mean, not shocking that something like this might happen.
I'll sum it up as the kids say, not good. It's not good.
No bueno.
You know what's not good also? New York. What's going on? The governor, Hochul's out there. Yes, we will introduce a bill to legalize autonomous vehicles. But lo and behold, you gotta love us. We read the fine print on autonomy markets. No New York City.
I mean, there you go again with your negativity. Why not focus on the positive that you have a governor that wants to introduce legislation that can expand the autonomous vehicle pilot? I don't live in New York City. Obviously, I spent a lot of time there, but don't live there. That is the positive, right? I mean, obviously there is the negative about New York City, even though this governor is working closely with our new mayor. And I think the mayor himself had a quote on autonomous vehicles this week. Do we have that for our listeners?
We do, Walt. We have a quote from Mayor Mamdani of New York City. I'm going to read this quote for you here, word for word. End quote. I do take the arrival of autonomous vehicles very seriously, and will always make sure that our policy and our decision making is focused on the drivers who here alongside me, in front of me, behind me, who keep our city moving. It sounds to me that it's going to be an uphill battle to deploy autonomous vehicles in New York City based on that and based on where the mayor gave that speech.
I assume that means he was standing in front of a bunch of taxi drivers, but and obviously they're protecting a medallion system that notably has made Michael Bloomberg, some extra money as one of the largest medallion owners. Talk about like an old system that make a few people rich, which he's endorsing. I mean, the other thing that's obviously, that I would nitpick on the text is why would your policy and decision making not be focused on all of the New York City, users, like the citizens of New York who are looking for clean and safe ways to get around the city? Like, why would it be focused on, if you're a mayor for the entire city, why is the policy and decision making focused on the drivers as opposed to all of the voters of New York City? So whatever, one of many things that I find interesting about our new mayor and some of the things that decisions and things that he said out of the gate, and also obviously consistent with what we've talked about here on Autonomy Markets, the risks of some of these cities. At the end of the day, guys like this will come and go, but autonomy is here forever. And, if they want to anger their electorate by not enabling a technology that people, I believe firmly, will want, they will face the consequences ultimately. And they will go, and autonomy will ultimately make it to New York. The bigger challenge in New York, Grayson, I think is less about politicians like this grandstanding and more about, can you get the servicing function, the cars, that would be required to truly launch in New York City. That again, to me, seems like the bigger challenge here.
The challenge is, and as you said, rightly said, the voters will vote. They'll go to the ballot box and vote that individual out. And perhaps it's that policy with other policies. And that's why we have a democracy and you can vote. Politics go far left, they go far right, and then eventually they get to the middle. But studying New York, and I did spend some time doing this, you look at the currently the available real estate and you look at, and this is not a mafia term, but if you look at the families, and you know this, multi-generation families that own a lot of this commercial real estate in the city, the commercial real estate that's zoned for parking is very limited. And the other issue that's not discussed a lot, there is energy shortage usages in New York getting into these garages. It's going to be very tough to find it to deploy and hose these vehicles in New York City. I know I'm going into a controversial topic here, but the vehicles have to go to New Jersey and end up paying the commuter tax just because of the availability of energy and land to service these vehicles?
I mean, there's a lot to unpack in what you just said there. But to the root of it, I mean, no, I don't think ultimately that's going to be the case. I think we will. There's a lot of smart money and people going after preparing for the autonomous wave that is to come, including New York, which can be very profitable given the population density. Hopefully there's an opportunity to partner with people in governments, and hopefully maybe other cities show the way for this. I think the mayor of San Jose has been a stand-up example of someone wanting to partner with industry, and you can see the positives that maybe they can occur from that. But no, I don't think you're going to have to shove these cars out into a different state. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Do you think, because having lived in the city for a long time, do you think we'll have staging areas, perhaps the Upper East Side, Upper West, Lower East, Lower West, Midtown, that they'll have staging areas just because of the traffic and the way the city's laid out?
I've seen and heard, and I'm starting to see ideas for how this autonomy market will evolve over time. I think what you and I have seen up to this point, the one we like to pick on is a Waymo in Austin is, and this is not like heavy analysis, is the least efficient way that cars will be serviced over time. There is a most efficient way. It does not necessarily require a ton of real estate. There's obviously a lot of garages in the city. Obviously, to your point, there's some infrastructure upgrades that need to occur, particularly on the energy side of things. But I think our governor talked about some investments in energy and nuclear or whatever it was, or getting greater power there as well. So I think there will be solutions, and you don't need like these mega centers like we saw in Austin. There's there's probably other ways to store and maintain these vehicles. It's clearly not working in Santa Monica, right? We know the complaints that those residents have with where Waymo is, but again, we're still early days, and I think there's obvious solutions that will take some time to roll out. And we will report back to our listeners as they start to get deployed and funded.
We will. The bottom line is you don't need a Costco-sized infrastructure to deploy a fleet of autonomous vehicles. And the bottom line is the value for AVs in New York is in the city, not upstate. That's the bottom line.
I think that's a very limited viewpoint, because when you say upstate, again, I don't know, that means a lot of different things, but ultimately, if you think about the opportunity and autonomy for even private ownership, I need to get to the airport. I think there's definitely a market for it. Obviously, population density is where you go after, the most. But some of the topography that we saw in Austin is no different than what you see in Westchester or Southern Connecticut. So I think to say it's a city-only thing is being a bit short-sighted at the broader opportunity for autonomy, especially, here we go, for non-geofenced autonomous options that are being developed.
That do not rely on HD maps. You forgot the key part there, Walt.
Sorry, that was a layup.
It was a layup. Well, let's go down to a state where autonomy is legal. Austin. There are no carve-outs. You can go in Dallas. You can go in Austin. San Antonio, there's no carve-outs. You can go anywhere you want in the state of Texas. Still, Tesla has not opened commercial service for the Robotaxi without a safety attendant yet. We're still waiting.
Yeah, it's disappointing to say the least. I think it's January 15th. We're hoping that they hit that milestone, start to scale up. I got a little optimistic this week because, of all things, I see a tweet from our friends at Waymo saying that they're increasing their coverage area, their geofenced area in Austin. I'm like, oh, wow. This typically happens if they know, right, Tesla is about to launch. It's like that preemptive strike that we've covered so many times here that, you know, the companies sometimes claim is coincidental, but we know better. So I was getting optimistic when Waymo increased their coverage area. And I'm like, oh, yes, it's about to happen. It didn't happen. It did not, in fact, happen this week.
You know what did happen this week? There's a lot of great data on X. A lot of folks write stuff on X. And I noticed something. Andrew McDonald, COO of Uber, put up a tweet, retweeting the gentleman Reed from Waymo, and said, available on Uber. And if you go through Mr. McDonald's archive and other Uber executives' archives, the language before said exclusively available on Uber. Now it just says available on Uber. I know I'm reading tea leaves here, Walt, but that's what I do. There's a slight change in that language.
I mean, executives should be very precise with the language. Maybe they are. I love that you're putting on your Inspector Clouseau hat early in the episode. I don't know. I'm gonna err on the side of conservatism on there. I don't know if that really makes a difference, but you know, we'll see. You know, I think we're on record on this podcast more so than anything else out in the market about our concerns about that relationship. So we'll see if that comes to fruition one way or another.
I had to put the hat on early because we notice things. That's what we do on Autonomy Markets. We look for things and we address them here, and the hat's coming back on later. Don't worry.
And by the way, you and I are planning on getting down to Austin. I'm not going to reveal exact dates, especially after all the attention we got at CES. But we will be back in Austin, and hopefully by the time we're back there, we can shoot some videos. We can check out Waymo's broader footprint. We can check out Avomo, see how that's doing, among other things. So I'm looking forward to get back to one of my favorite states, the state of Texas.
I'm looking forward to it too. And I got to ask you a question before we go on here. What if I wore the Inspector Clouseau hat? Would I be able to get into these meetings? Or they say, oh, Mr. Fine Print's here?
I don't know. I think between the beard and the shirt and the pants, I think people they're already expecting some level of show when you show up for our meetings or when we're showing up outside some of these depots. So tossing a hat on there, sure, why not?
It can just add to the colorfulness, or if you want to say the weirdness, or trying to figure it outness, whatever you want. The one thing that I'm trying to figure out.
Well, hold on. Before we go on, I just want to throw this out to our listeners as well. As you may have seen on the Road to Autonomy, which, by the way, has the largest library of autonomous information and interviews, bar none, literally bar none. There is merch there. It's AUTNY, whatever it is. I think Grayson puts it up. You can check it out. By the way, buy some. That's fine. We need Autonomy Markets merch. And I would like something, you know, to kind of reflect our style, which is a bit more brash, not as understated, not your like GB shirts, which are like kind of Vineyard Vines understated. So if our listeners have any ideas of graphics, because at Lightshed, we had WWE, I think, create shirts for us with a big skull on the back, and it's like Lightshed 316. Something like in your face so that when we go to CES or some of these other locations that we can really have the branding to show people. So send in your ideas in the comments, email, text, otherwise. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it'll be awesome. And I promise if you send it in, I will get you a selfie with Walt. That's my guarantee if you send it in. You were getting a lot of selfies at CES. I gotta say, you were pretty popular. I know you're a tall gentleman, but you were pretty popular there.
To be fair, some of them were based on some of the media and telco stuff as well.
Okay, well, you're still a nice guy. Well, let's get back to the most important part of the show here, the information. As I said earlier, a lot of information on X. This week, Elon, being Elon, he's a master of numbers. On Valentine's Day of all days, that's it. You can no longer buy FSD. You can only subscribe to it. One side, and it's a mutual friend of ours, Mr. Mighty Fly, is having a meltdown over it. And then you got another part of the audience that likes it. What are your thoughts on only being able to subscribe to FSD, no longer able to buy it?
You know, I don't remember the whole root of all of this. Like, was it only first available as a purchase, I think, before it was available as a subscription. I mean, it only makes sense to have it as a subscription. I'm not sure why you'd necessarily purchase it. Even time value of money based on that number versus what they charge you every month doesn't really make sense to purchase it. I think there's the ability to transfer it. And then look, on top of this, getting a recurring revenue, getting a recurring payment, I think is generally more attractive to investors. I don't really think that's the way they did it because, like, we'll see how things play out with the Robotaxi network, and maybe that, and you roll in insurance, and there's other things that play into this. So they're just setting the stage. I guess the bottom line is it never made sense to me in the first place to have it as a purchase. It should have always been something that was a subscription. And frankly, it's a deal. I know everyone's excited about Rivian being $50 or about to $100, but like, okay, I'm in my Tesla today and it works. Like, is there a Rivian today that can drive me to Philly where I'm not touching the steering wheel? No. The answer is no. There's no other car that I'm aware of, let me know if I'm wrong, that I can sit in my garage, press a button, and it drives me to Philly. Stop. End of story. Stop. Right. So I digressed off of the subscription topic, but again, subscription makes the most sense, and it always has.
It always has. Yes, originally you were able to buy it, then it went to a hybrid subscription buy. Now it's going to subscription. But for our longtime listeners and viewers, you can take it to your world famous fish market, and I want to get a report when you actually give the owner a ride one day. And I love that the post you put up on X. You have 14.2.2.3. I have 14.2.2.2. What's the difference between the 0.2 to 0.3? What have you noticed?
I haven't actually, I think, been in that car enough to notice the difference. And frankly, since you hit 14, whatever, 2, I can't remember, there really hasn't been, for me, any type of notable changes. Like, now it's up to that level where you're not getting that kind of, stutter stopping that exists there. So it's all pretty much, I think been the same. So yeah, I didn't get many comments on the fact that I'm almost at 1,000 FSD hands-off miles. I was hoping to get some more feedback on that. Grayson, what happened?
Lo and behold, I think the feedback's coming. That's the only way that I know how to say that to you. So that's Tesla. Let's go on to Waymo. There was emails that came out this week from Australia that the Transport Minister Catherine King has met with Waymo executives, and Waymo's actively planning testing, which and I know is going to lead to a deployment down under, with the city being picked, Sydney. What do you make of Waymo going down under?
I mean, I like Texas, but Sydney, wow. I mean, talk about a great city, Bondi Beach, beautiful place. I'm trying to convince my wife maybe we can move there for, a couple years. Beautiful. So I'm happy that Waymo has prioritized such a great city. And look, this is just about the broadening of their product. I guess I wonder, Grayson, I think our belief is, and our listeners can correct us if we're wrong, or at least allege that we're wrong. They may not be right themselves. The Zeekr cars that Waymo is receiving in the US, by my estimation, based on some, I don't know if it's legislation or at least Commerce Department type of requirements, you're still getting a Zeekr car that then has to be upfit. Now, maybe the Zeekr car, from what I've read, is like more ready to accept these. By the way, fewer sensors. For anyone out there that says, like, why would you reduce sensors? It reduces safety. Well, Waymo is reducing sensors, and I don't see anyone like going bananas about reducing sensors and reducing their safety. I digress. But is it possible that Waymo can purchase Zeekrs that are effectively line fit and fully constructed for use in the European market? So when we talk about this supply issue, and I raise this as an issue because they're, in my view, maybe I'm wrong, that they still have to be upfit in the US, that's not the case internationally, and that there is an opportunity for Waymo to crank up the volumes because of markets like that might allow them to take a line fit, Geely, which is effectively Zeekr, whatever the hell they renamed it to, Ohio or something like that. Is that possible?
In the United States, the vehicles basically, like, because of a commerce that was enacted under the Biden administration, the vehicles, quote unquote, come in as a shell with no connectivity. I'm not verifying that. That's just what the documents say. And then they are upfitted here in the United States. The sensors that can compute the infrastructure, the cellular, is added to it. The way that the European Union laws are currently written, Waymo could import a factory-built Zeker, if you want to call Ojai, great winery in Ojai, by the way, with really great rosé. They can import those into the EU directly from China. And the Australian media is reporting that Waymo has met with Geely to explore other models that they have to import those directly to Australia, directly from China. So perhaps China accelerates Waymo's growth internationally, and the Ojai is only deployed here in very limited numbers. If it is ever deployed here, it's a possibility.
I mean, I think that's great. I mean, that would be great for Waymo to get their scale up on a global basis and provide some source of cars. So that's awesome. I also wonder, Grayson, like, are you going to be able in the Waymo One app or the Uber app, if you get allocated an Ojai, which has fewer sensors, that are you able to turn that down because of your concern as a consumer for the fewer sensors? Because we've gotten a lot of feedback about fewer sensors being a greater safety concern. So are they going to allow consumers to not ride the cars that have the fewer sensors in this latest iteration?
Nope. It's going to be, here you go. Step right up.
I apologize. That was too much of a layup, but it had to be said. So we move on to the next topic. Talk about sensors. For our listeners out there that love more sensors, they want to be covered in sensors all over the place. I got a company for you, Tensor. They've got sensors all over the car. Now, the car could be, I don't know, $200,000-$300,000. I don't know. But now there's a report out of our friends at Bloomberg that they're working with an investment bank to raise a couple of $100 million ahead of the IPO in 2027. This is interesting to me, right? I mean, we talked last week about, some of the limited information. I actually was not able to connect. I got some inbounds from Tensor this week. I apologize. We will connect next week. The public markets are going to demand to have a lot of information. So you're talking about doing an IPO in a year or so, or prior to a planned IPO in 27, which is next year. We're going to need to know a lot of information. And let's start with, if they're raising $300 to $400 million, as Bloomberg is suggesting, was there anything in that report that said how much they had raised to date? And wasn't that our first question, Grayson, and where that money came from?
No, there's no transparency. I went through SEC filings. I went through various different data sources trying to uncover anything. It goes all the way up to AutoX, and then I hit a wall. And then magically a deal appears with VinFast. And there is this in between of no data. We have no clarity. There's no public statements, no public filings, no X post, no LinkedIn post, no blog post, no post, period. We're flying blind.
This is the ultimate stealth mode, though. I mean, I get, on the venture side, I get pitches all the time. We're in stealth mode. So maybe they're just the ultimate stealth mode. And now, I mean, obviously, if you're going to raise $300 or $400 million from a bank, as this Bloomberg story reports, there's probably going to be more information. And again, like I said, they reached out to me this week. I apologize. We will connect in the weeks to come. And, I'm very interested because at the root of it, I do really appreciate a contract manufactured car and getting away from the stranglehold of the OEMs and the challenges that presents.
If this is what I said to this. When you're in stealth, you don't put a product out to the world. When you were in stealth,
no, they were in stealth before. You were saying you hadn't heard anything for years because they were in stealth for years, and now they're out.
When a company comes out of stealth, one of two things happens. You call TechCrunch and you get a blog post of all your investors to brag, or you put out a press release. You don't get, and I don't care what anybody says, that had to be over $1 million, that booth at CES. That was expensive, and it was big. You're not in stealth. You're out in the public. We have questions.
But we look forward to learning because it is a good-looking car. And I do like the people that I've met thus far, which is many. What's next?
Next, hat time.
Here we go. We did it. We made it to Inspector Clouseau. I got to say, I like this hat much better than the clapping hat from last week.
Well, the clapping hat was great. I clapped for you. I clapped for Walt. So we had the Clouseau hour. So we're here. We have, and just for the record, we have the best listeners and viewers out there in the market.
Bar none. Every single one of them.
Every single one. Thank you. Every single one. No matter what, we love you all. So keep the comments coming. So we had a really great listener out there sends in a photo. They saw a truck, and it was an autonomous truck with a lot of sensors on it because they stand out, and they want to know what we thought. We took a look at the photo. We uncovered the DOT number, the name of the company, and lo and behold, it was a Stack AV truck out there on the road. Pretty interesting. And then we did some research. We went into the FMCSA database, and I want to give you some numbers here because this is all public data. We were able to uncover that Stack currently has 36 trucks, 21 drivers. The most interesting part, in 2024, they only drove 15,051 miles on public roads, and yet they raised $1 billion from SoftBank. What do you think's going on here?
That's a lot of trucks. I think that's pretty good. I mean, is not, what did you say, 36 trucks? That's a pretty sizable number of trucks. So hopefully they're getting enough data to hit the market. No,
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate. I think a lot of the data and driving is probably happening on closed courses, but when we get the 2025 numbers, we'll be able to compare.
And on the SoftBank, I mean, I think SoftBank has spread a lot of dollars to a lot of different places in autonomy because they're appropriately, as past NVIDIA shareholders, recognize that autonomy is a great manifestation physically of AI. And this is a massive market opportunity in the cities, in the suburbs, and on our highways, in the trucks, and even in the Permian Basin as it comes to trucks.
Trucks go everywhere. They're even going to Japan, we learned this week. What did you learn from Plus?
That's true. Plus, they have a partner that was announced, T2, and that got and they also got an investment from Mitsui. But T2 is, I think, like a logistics person, and there was some, conversation about how they are going to deliver a trucking autonomous fleet, I believe, in Japan. And to me, it's fascinating because when you think about this trucking space where there are many and very highly regarded autonomous players from Aurora and Kodiak and Plus and Bot Auto and Wabi and, and I guess maybe some others that'll enter the market. So in the case of Plus, who, by the way, is in the process and will be a public company. I'm going to check my notes here. The ticker now is CCIX. The ticker is going to be PLS. But again, it speaks to this, like, how are you going to drive revenue? And in their case, in this very specific instance in Japan, the lead is, I guess, this logistics partner, or maybe that's the way in. Each trucking guy seems to have a slightly different viewpoint. Do I own the trucks? Does someone buy the trucks? Are we partnering with JB Hunt or going against them? I mean, there's a number of different machinations of this. And it's still early, but we're at kind of that point. Aurora's got trucks on the road. Kodiak's got revenue generating trucks in the basin, and we'll have trucks on the road, so they claim, from your recent podcast this week, this year. So it's an exciting time, and I'm open to any of these business models. I mean, I think they all make sense. I do have some biases here and there, which I won't, necessarily express right now. But I'm open that any one of these models can work. We'll just see how it plays out.
To me, the autonomous trucking market's healthy, and the different models, and they're all competing, and it's healthy when you try different models and you try different deployment strategies and partnerships. So to me, it's a very healthy market at this time.
Yeah, until of course Mayor Mamdani gets in front of a bunch of truckers and says his priority is to preserve their jobs as opposed to the safety and the efficiency of our roads. Anyway, I digress.
And that's why we always watch politics here on Autonomy Markets, and we cover it. Let's get out of politics and go to the foreign autonomy desk. Not much happened in the foreign autonomy desk, but WeRide continues to make moves overseas. They're now integrated into the WeChat app, so riders in Beijing and in other parts of China can now order a ride right from in the WeChat super app. What do you think of that integration?
I mean, this is, first of all, this is what you would call early agentic, I guess. And I think there's definitely people at Uber and Lyft that are working with, the LLMs, to figure out how to integrate, in there, because, that's just how we're going to integrate with or use our data in the future. Obviously, you saw this week, Apple's going to be using Google in terms of driving the AI within their phone. So it's WeChat's obviously a very important app and product. In China, you have to be integrated there. Right now, less so, I guess, with LLMs and how we integrate with them. But it's I can tell you that those conversations are already happening, because no one wants to be, as they say, disintermediated and not get those rides because they're not integrated with the agentic versions of how AI is going to evolve. So makes sense.
You have to experiment. I remember when the Amazon Echo and the Alexa first came out, there was Uber integration, say, Alexa, order an Uber. So you always have to experiment with those new emerging technologies because you never know which one's going to catch on next.
Are you one of those guys that bought those Amazon buttons to stick on your washing machine so that when your laundry detergent got low, you pressed the button and it auto ordered it? Because it was so hard to open up the Amazon app to order that. Were you, did you try that technology?
I try a lot of things. I didn't try that because of a simple feature Amazon has. It's called subscribe and save. It's all automated. I didn't have to do it.
The button that cracked me up.
You never know. What do we need to know next week in the autonomy markets?
Earnings are going to start to kick in. I think Mobileye got a report. They kind of already said what all they had to say at CES. I doubt there's anything truly new there. And again, like I said last week, I guess we're kind of in a holding period or a waiting period to see if anything moves in Austin one way or another for either Waymo or for Tesla.
I love how you emphasized move. I like that because move plays a big role in the autonomy.
If you know, you know. If you know, you know.
And now, don't worry, I won't break into a rap song. For those that know, the future is bright. The future is autonomous. The future is scaling autonomy. Walt, until next week.